Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities. We're going to work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. I'll interject my financial opinions as we go. And if you need help with anything, check out finding-value.com. That's where I dive deeper into these topics, into individual sectors, companies, also the macro kind of environment and landscape, and I share my opinions more freely there during the midweek updates and the question and answer sessions that we have on the weekend. I will continue to have the question and answer session at 5 p.m. on Sunday. So if you have any questions, go ahead and bring it up there. And we still have the coupon code May Day is still going on, where we have a little bit of savings on the monthly membership, 50% off the first month if you'd like to try it, or you could have a larger savings for the yearly membership. So let's dive in. Let's take a look and see what's going on today with the daily update here. So starting at the DXY, I still think this looks strong. So what we're measuring again is relative strength of the dollar versus other currencies. And when I look at this, we came into this pattern from the downside up. We've consolidated across. We've broken out of the pattern here to the upside. We consolidated even further, broke to the upside. Still looks strong, like we want to move higher in the DXY, which means the DXY is having strength against other currencies. And when you price commodities in dollars, we will still have maybe more choppiness sideways until that dollar weakens. We saw the dollar weaken in 2002, and that's when everything took off. But right now, we still see the DXY hanging out there with a little bit of strength. So it might take some time for this to kind of play itself out before the economy, recession, weaker dollar, before all that plays out. Because generally, when rates go down, and they have to go down at a faster pace than the currencies they're being evaluated against, that's what we're looking for commodities to go up in dollar terms. So we're still hanging out in a pretty strong location. The 2-year yield has fallen quite a bit the past couple of trading sessions, surprisingly. Like I've said before, we're kind of waiting to see which direction this goes. And in the short term, it looks like we've got some weakness left in the 2-year yield to go down. But are we playing a move here where we've got a 3-hump consolidation, and will the bottom hump hit here and break on out, or are we going to break down lower? That I do not know. We're waiting for that kind of confirmation. So we've been consolidating sideways for the 2-year yield, and we're still in that consolidation pattern. The 10-year yield is also consolidating, very much like the 2-year. We're getting some short-term weakness here in the short term. There's a little pullback in the short term. Bigger, longer term, are we going to break this trend line on the bottom there to the downside? Or is this going to consolidate upward? And that is like the big question that I think everyone is asking, which is the right question to ask. The 10-year yield is really what prices a lot of assets in the world, whether it's going up or down, is a big deal. And that's what we're trying to figure out. If this breaks lower, I think precious metals will have a pretty good run. And it could bring the dollar down with it, which would also, it could also bring all of the commodity complexes higher. And it depends on how fast it falls. If it falls off a cliff, if the 2-year yield falls off a cliff and dives down here, that's kind of your recessionary, a slowdown in the market, recession's coming. But right now, we're heading a little bit lower, and we're not out of those patterns yet. 30-year yield also heading lower, still inside of that pattern that we've got going on here. TYX TNX ratio, it's coming up a little bit. Is this the beginning of a slowdown in the market? Are we kind of, moving lower with yields, slowing down a little bit, uninverting the yield curve? If this uninverts, it's going to be fantastic for precious metals, gold and silver mining companies. That's going to be the preferred area, I think, if that doesn't uninvert. And then bond prices, looks like we've got some strength today with those lower yields, and we could be heading higher in bond prices on TLT, the 20-year bond price there. So that also looks pretty solid to move higher. Oops. So we've got the 2 and 10. It is inverting. As weird as that is, it's still inverting. And the 10-year has fallen more than the 2-year. So the yield curve's still inverted. We're up there quite a ways. And we've inverted further today, although yields have dropped. So what we're looking for precious metals is we want the curve to uninvert and go down. So that's kind of the sweet spot for precious metals. So they were down today, but the yield curve didn't uninvert. It inverted. So gold is down $36 an ounce. You've heard me say this before. We get the big selling pressure move here, another big selling pressure move here. We've got a pattern that's angled upward. When they angle upward like that, it generally means that it's a continuation pattern to the downside. So right now, we do still have some pressure that could be generated to the downside. But if you take a different time frame and you look at the bigger picture view, because everyone gets so focused on the short term, we've broken to the upside. So I think that longer term, we will go up, and that this that we're in the short term is a consolidation pattern. Silver also selling off, but I look at the characteristics of the candlesticks. Big buying pressure, green, big fat candlesticks. The green army is what I call it. Small red candlesticks on the pullback. I think it's a consolidation. I think longer term, we're going higher. That's when you take a bigger picture view. You've got the downtrend broken to the upside. I would view this as bullish on a big picture view. So I remain bullish on silver. Platinum down a little bit. We're trying to break out of this downtrend line. We haven't broken out yet. Can it get frustrating? Yes, it can. We've been selling off little by little by little. And I do think that we're entering a good area for potential buy points in some of these down here. So that looks good. And we just haven't broken out yet, but we've got the basing before it. You want to be in a big, long basing pattern, much like this one here, before these big things break out of it. And then palladium, we don't have that basing pattern. So we've got basically the topping pattern here. We've broken to the downside. We're back against support, but we don't have that big base to jump off of. We're creating that base as we go. So palladium, I think, just has some basing out to do. XAU to gold ratio, we pulled back 1.7%, and we're above that line. I call it to break that line for happiness. We're doing a retest. So we broke out of it. There's the breakout, and now we're coming back to retest. What do you think I would do there, boys? You know what I do. You know what I do. Would buy it. I would. So we're real low. We've got the yield curve inverted. If it uninverts, I think this is going to go up. So gold and silver mining companies, I think, are in a very good location. They're very cheap against gold. We are putting in a massive bottoming pattern. And those that are patient enough and willing enough to go against the grain and look in this here for positions, basically against the herd, they're going to be rewarded over the next 18 months, 2 years. That's my guess. Coming down to GDX, so we were down today in the mining companies. We're trying to basically break out of all these downtrend lines on a little bit longer term. This is just a big flag pattern, guys. It's a big flag pattern. Here's the big flag pattern. We are trying to break out of that upper flag, and we've pulled back to do a big retest here. So I still think it looks good, and we are working our way to putting in a big flag pattern. We are coming to a lot of support down here too. We've got GDXJ doing the same thing. That hit its head-on resistance, which is this guy right here. We hit our head on it, and we're just looping back around. And then we've got SILJ. That's broken out of its bigger pattern to the upside, and we're getting a pullback right at support in that general area there. Crude oil down 0.76%. Small little down day. It's not a reversal candlestick. It's just a down day, guys. We do have a lot of resistance through that area here. We're right inside of it. The big key portion that we want to break is that trend line above us. That's the big boy. If we can get above that, oh come on. But we got to be patient. We got to let this play out. That's what investing's about. It's, Warren Buffett says it's a game of where money transfers hands from the impatient to the patient. We've got a bullish engulfing here if we can finish the week out strong. We've got a bottom hammer candlestick, so it could try here to break out at some point, get some momentum to try to break out. And we're sitting on top of, keep this in mind long term, guys. We're sitting on top of the pattern, which is like, that's the big portion of that battle, is to get out on top of the pattern. That's the breakout. We could do a retest like that, a false breakout. It could happen. That would be a slowdown in the market, an uninversion of the yield curve. It could yank us down like that and do that retest, a full retest. So that still is a part of the game if it decides to show up. Just keep that in mind. TTF gas up 1.6%. It still looks good. Momentum's up. Higher high, higher lows. It's still going. Still looks good. We've got natural gas in America down 3.5%. It's probably doing a retest here. It's of this horizontal resistance support level. We had a nice little double bottom there. Broke out. We could do a retest. 270-ish area. Very possible. We've had a pretty big run in nat gas already. XOP, yeah, you know me. We're in this squeeze right now. We're right on top of the neckline. So it's an inverted shoulder, head, shoulder. We're on the neckline, getting a little bit of selling pressure. There's that selling pressure. We're still inside the pattern. I haven't adjusted anything on this chart. I don't like seeing these big, selling pressure days that we've got the past few days, but it's almost like someone's trying to drive this thing lower. But we're right up against support, right where we're at. Big support level. We've got a big wick at the bottom. We got to get some buying pressure in here and push us upward. We're right at that neckline. OIH also getting some selling pressure today and yesterday. We're right on the longer term support level here. That's that support, the trend line going right through here. So hopefully that trend line can hold where we're at and provide some support. Hopefully we can get moving to the upside eventually. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust just moving sideways. It is trying to base out here. So we'll see what that looks like. We don't want to see big fat selling pressure candlesticks. We want to see the big green ones show up, put a big bullish engulfing, and that would get me really bullish if that does show up in a short time frame here. But right now, sideways is the action, and it's trying to turn. URA up a little bit. We do have downside momentum still. That hasn't been turned yet. Still in action. 1 second, guys. So URNM, it's got the same pattern, downside momentum, and it just has not turned yet. Right at support. It does look a little bit weak, though. We do not have the big green candlesticks coming in here yet. URNJ, same pattern. We have weakness showing, and we do not have bottoming candlesticks at this moment. And we're right on support. We'll see if that support holds. We could see this continue lower if the sellers do come out and start selling it off. Moving on to TAN. So we had a stronger dollar today, a little bit weaker yields, and we're seeing some selling pressure kind of across the board in some of these base metals and stuff like that. And we're seeing bond prices obviously go up. We could get a slowdown. That is definitely possible. And TAN, right at resistance, getting some selling pressure today. So a little bit of selling pressure in TAN. Still above a lot of support and still look pretty good with some of these bullish engulfing candlesticks. It's still holding on there. We've got copper moving a little bit lower. The momentum's to the downside. That still looks to be intact in the short term. No reversal candlesticks yet. COPX also continuing to sell off, and that still looks intact for that momentum to the downside. Lithium, selling down 2.24%, and that could go all the way back to the support level of 36-ish dollars. Very possible here. I do not see a clear turn. Momentum still to the downside. REMX also big momentum to the downside, still pulling back further. Here it is continuing lower. So that is still intact, and the momentum is picking up. So we can still see further downside in REMX. The S&P 500, weird as it is, continuing a little bit higher. Same with the NASDAQ, continuing a little bit higher. It's almost like these guys are getting pushed on up. But that still looks okay at this current time. Russell 2000 down 0.88%. We've kind of squeezed up, broke out, retest. I would think that this is going to head lower in the short term. And we could see downside pressure. We've got KRE down 1.6%, even with yields lower, and dollar is up. But that's just been chopping sideways for the most part here. Chop, chop, chop. We've got emerging markets, doesn't like that stronger dollar. It's been chopping sideways above support. Support level there. And to me, this looks like a good opportunity here, but we have to see the dollar drop for emerging markets to really rip it. Look back to 2002 and onward. Emerging markets had a monster run when that dollar dropped against those other emerging market currencies. Is that going to come here similarly where yields drop and the dollar drops with it? That's the question you should be asking. If you think yes, this is a good entry point. XHB also exhibiting some strength today. And what I saw, if we get lower yields, which we got today, homebuilders did very well. Even in 2001, they did well. So they kind of just skipped right past the slowdown or recession in 2001 and continued higher. So I do think that this is sensitive to interest rates. And if interest rates drop, we're going on up. So is this a consolidation flag pattern? Something on the lines of that? Yes, I do think so. Moo, right on support. It looks good. It's got a nice little hammer candlestick. This looks good down here. It really does. Iron ore heading on up a little bit. I think it's trying to put in a bottoming pattern, and I think lower yields and a lower dollar will help it. Yeah, if we get that condition. Nickel down a little bit. This guy has been pulling back here recently. Bigger than what I thought. I thought we were going to continue on up, but we'll see if it holds here. And is this kind of like an accumulation cylinder? We'll find out. We got to turn it around right where it's at. Aluminum also pulling back, and we're at support. There's a bunch of buying and selling pressure going through there, so you've got support there. Baltic Dry Index at support. That looks good for a potential move higher. It was up a little bit. We've got Newcastle Coal up 0.7%. This looks really good. I think the coal companies where they're at, I think they're in a good location. We've broken the downtrend line. We've done a retest. Breakout retest is here. We could move around a little bit here, a little bit in time, consolidate a little bit further in time, and then I think we're going to head on up when that time is ready. Bitcoin down 2%. Still above support, though. Still above support, and we'll see if we can hold there. Ethereum also down. Not huge. We're getting some support. That's why there's little wicks at the bottom. So it's holding on. But I mean, it's not a great pattern. It's not like, if you're going to buy it, buy something where it's like in a dead period consolidating like here to rip it on up. It's kind of just slowly leaking off a little bit, almost like it's consolidating. SMCI ripping. Like I said, it still looked good. All the small little candlesticks here, big buying candlesticks. So it ripped today, up 12.4%. Looks good. Still looks good. And then NVIDIA continuing higher. It's broken out of this consolidation pattern here, and it's been going on up. And the market cap is $3.2 trillion. Wow, it's a big boy now. But that's what I've got for today, guys. So that's what I've got. Give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website if you'd like. We've got a Sunday question and answer session at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. And yeah, that's all I've got for today, guys. So we'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.